Senior. I don't know if anybody ever remember the old town of Leesburg, there was like the intersection of the Salmo Restaurant, Red and White Store, Exxon Station, and Gulf Station. Exxon, he used to run the Exxon Station, he was probably walk there. Popular guy. Henry Lenser.
Yep.
Henry Lenser Senior.
Mary Trickville still had the.
I don't know. You lived up in Crown area. He was like 90, he was 90 years old, he just,
Well, let's remember, speaking of 90, let's remember Phyllis's birthday is Saturday at 1 o'clock at the Roseville Grange Hall. And if you haven't signed up, you're out of luck. You know, no, I think you can probably come on. And I think there's going to be plenty of food by the looks of it. So that's at 1 o'clock.
Larry Waymire was supposed to be here at the end of this month, and he can't make it. So he's coming on April, and he's going to do a 3-day meeting, April 6th through the 9th.
April 6th through the 9th, we're going to have a 3-day meeting with Larry Waymire, who is the
Haiti guy.
Haiti guy. He's a
He doesn't
guy.
hate us, but he,
No, he's the guy that we send money to coordinate through for our gifts to Haiti, our support of that church. Of course, John,
we turned clocks ahead this weekend.
yes.
Yay.
Spring forward this weekend with your clocks.
so you don't change your clock, you're late.
Spring forward, fall back. So spring forward, that's how I remember it.
Come to the talent show at Brookville Area High School, March 27th.
Wait, slow down. The talent show at the Brookville Area High School,
March 27th and 28th.
March 27th and 28th. Do you know somebody's going to be in it, Kendall? Oh, Kendall's going to be in it. Imagine that.
I think she's singing.
He's singing.
Is that
I
at the
am.
auditorium?
What are you going to
What?
sing?
Is that at the auditorium?
Yeah.
You going to sing an old time rock and roll?
No.
All right, remember that in the auditorium. See, Joe, say his last name, Homelech, had asked for prayers for his friend Pete Berry, and so let's remember Pete. John Hartzell has passed away. I think we all know that. He just, as far as I know, there's not going to be any kind of a memorial or anything like that. So let's just keep Patty and the Hartzell family in our prayers. Randy and Pam are going to be on vacation the 4th through the 11th. I guess that's now.
They're out there getting ready to help Paul and move.
Yeah, they're moving there right now. That's where they are now. Okay, so they're gone till the 11th. We have a Bible study on the 10th, beginning at 6:30 here in the building. And the women are going to meet upstairs, and the men's going to meet in the basement. Carla's going to be starting a lesson. And we're not sure what the men are going to talk about, but we'll find something. And then George, has George started to move yet?
He said he went and take some stuff today.
All right, so George may be moving right now,
Small stuff.
small stuff. So we're going to miss George. You know, George has been a faithful member. I hope he continues his faithfulness wherever he goes.
Did you say?
Anything else?
What'd you say, Carl?
Did you,
Glorious.
Well, what Carla want to say?
I want to say, is George going to be going to Hermitage? Is that what you
I
said?
believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Harrisville.
Harrisville.
Well, he's going to church
He's
in
going to church in
Harrisville.
Hermitage.
He's going to live in Hermitage and
No,
then
he's living in Harrisville. He's going to
Attending it.
services and the congregations in Hermitage.
Okay. Well, I knew it was because I went there when I was at camp, but when you said that Sunday, I thought, wait a minute. But okay.
Yeah.
Hey, and by the way, I started my year-long shots. I started them on March the 4th, and I'll take them every month for a year. They're to build my bones. All they said to me is, do not fall. I said, that's a lovely thing to say to an old person.
Dave and Karen will be traveling to San Antonio, and they'll be back on Tuesday.
Oh. Who?
David Karen,
Yeah,
Oh.
they're going now?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew that. Okay, let's start with, let's see, verse, let's see, 604, verses 1, 3, and 5. Green 5, verse number 604. I wondered in the shades of night if Jesus came to me, and when the sunlight of his love in all my darkness flee. Sunlight, sunlight in my soul today. Sunlight, sunlight all along the way. Since the Savior found me, took away my sin, I have had the sunlight of his love within. Walking in the light of God, sweet communion find. I press with holy vigor on and leave the world behind. Sunlight, sunlight in my soul today. Sunlight, sunlight all along the way. Since the Savior found me, took away my sin, I have had the sunlight of his love within. Soon I shall see him as he is, the light that came to me. Behold the brightness of his face throughout eternity. Sunlight, sunlight in my soul today. Sunlight, sunlight all along the way. Since the Savior found me, took away my sin, I have had the sunlight of his love within. Sam, will you open prayer, please?
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us come here today and learn another portion of your word. Please help us to take it all in and understand it and apply it to our lives and teach others how they can apply it to their lives and teach others what the truth is and lead them to you. Father, help us to be good examples in this world and be a light to everyone. Please forgive us of our sin and keep us from evil. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Our invitation song will be number 762. Where he leads me, I will follow. Now I have our classes.
And Alan, you need your light on.
I need my mic on.
She got distracted. Yeah, no. Yeah, she said she thought, I said, well, just leave it there, you get it on. Just
Small. They did record, but they have a phone mounted on a thing sitting right here, but it shows up on the internet real good. Yeah, maybe that's what we need.
Facebook for it.
Yeah, yeah. You can go on, zoom up with Church of Christ and see what we did.
Did you turn it on yet?
No, I don't know if I did.
Okay, is there a green light on?
There's a green light. Okay. Very good. Yeah, we had a good visit with the church down there, and of course with Becky and Patrick and the girl. We were supposed to be going to Megan's this weekend, but that's been canceled. Lena came home with some kind of a respiratory thing. They just got over the throwing up flu and all that stuff, and now she's got that. So they don't want Grandma with her compromised immune system to come up there and get that. So maybe we'll come out to, can we still get on the list to come to Phyllis's? Can't do it? Okay. What if we bring like a pie or something? Cinnamon rolls, apple dumplings. Well, we canceled making apple dumplings because we thought we were going to Megan's, and everything's up in the air. So we'll probably tentatively we'll try to go to Phyllis's thing.
Dress up like Randy and
Well, we miss everybody when they travel, but it's good we're doing these things, and we've had a couple guys go to Clarion and speak and different things like that. So this is all good. We have these resources in our congregation. Let's use them. I did watch myself on that video, and I looked like an old hick farmer and talked like one, but. You know, that's what Jesus picked out of. He picked a bunch of fishermen and just regular guys. So maybe that'll plant some seed. You can watch that if you're of a mind to. Let's turn to Romans chapter 1. Today we're going to hopefully just have a discussion on some things, but we'll begin here in Romans chapter 1, look at a couple other verses, and then we'll discuss. It says in Romans chapter 1, I'm going to read verse 20. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. And he's talking about these people that made these idols and worshiped them for years and years and years. That's exactly what Paul's pointing out here. But he says they didn't... what may be known of God in verse 19 is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. And then he talks about how his invisible attributes are clearly seen by the things that were created. What's he mean by that? What does he mean? They did, they knew God, but they ignored him. And but now they don't think there is a God, even though his invisible attributes are clearly seen by the things that were made. Nature, yeah. How things work, how creation stays in balance, how creation works. Why hasn't, for 7,000 years, why hasn't something blown up? And it's simply because God said it's going to be like this. That's right at the beginning. Here's what we're going to do, and that's what we did. And that's how everything worked. But these people ignored that, and they rigged themselves up some other gods. That's what Paul's pointing out here. So it's being understood by the things that are made. Let's turn to Acts chapter 17 and look at another verse. Be thinking about that. Acts chapter 17 and verse, this of course in Acts chapter 17, Paul is at the Areopagus, and Paul is in Athens, and Paul is talking to some people that think they're real wise men. He's talking to a bunch of, I'd say, PhDs here, a bunch of people in the university who have studied everything, and they got all the answers. And he says in verse 27, verse 26, let's start. Now let's start with verse 24. God who made the world and everything in it. And Paul stands up to these people that worship all these idols. He just told them, I saw your memorial out there to the unknown God. And I said, God who made the world and everything in it, since he is Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in temples made with hands. Nor is he worshipped with men's hands as though he needed anything, since he gives to all life, breath, and all things. And he has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and the boundaries of their dwelling. So that, now let's get verse 27, so that they should seek the Lord in hope that they might grope for him and find him, though he's not far from each one of us, for, what's it say? In him we live and move and have our being. What's that mean? How do we live in God? How do we move in God? How does this work?
By trusting him.
Okay?
He created us.
He created us.
In his image.
Okay, but how are we in him? Through. Okay?
Are we talking?
I'm talking about Paul standing up and telling a bunch of infidels, we're in God. God created us and we're still in him. Now, I'm not going to say that I have the answers for all this. I want this for discussion. This is what we're assembled for tonight, to discuss.
Alan, if we do God's will and what he wants us to do.
Okay.
We show it through our lives by the way we act.
But he's just told them that he created us and you know, he's responsible for everything. And then he says he's not far from any of us. He talks about feeling around and trying to find God, though he's not far from every one of us because we're in him.
Right. And if we knock, he'll answer the door and open the door.
Okay. That's a good scripture. What else?
You don't need an idol to, or you trust him.
You don't need an idol. No, we don't need an idol. We have God. And we're in him, Paul says. Now, these people that he told this to, a few of them picked up on something here and started to, well, you know, they said, we want to hear you again. But a lot of them just made fun of him.
Well, we're his offspring. I mean, we're offspring of God. We're the offspring of God. So I guess God created all men. So everybody was created by God. So being his offspring, we don't all necessarily are not necessarily in him by the way we think of being in him now. I guess, but I guess I never thought about this here because he's talking, like you said, the infidels.
Yeah,
He's talking to people that aren't in him.
that's right.
The way we
That's
are
right.
in him is through Christ.
And then, but he says, in him we live and move and have our being. So he's very clear there that our existence is in God somehow.
Well, okay, if we take that approach to it, if we're in him we move and have our being, there would be nothing. We would have nothing.
Okay.
Now, whether they believe in God or don't believe in God, would have nothing if it wasn't for God. We'd have no food, we wouldn't have.
That's right. So does this verse relate then to what we talked about in Romans chapter 1 there in verse 20 where he says, the first verse we looked at, what did it say? Yeah. They knew God and
Although they knew God, they did not glorify him.
yeah. And they made some other gods. But his invisible attributes are to be seen by the creation. So he's talking about created things or somehow exist in God.
Genesis 6:9, talking about Noah, and it says, that verse says, this is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generation. Noah walked with God. So he walked with God because he believed in God. They were on the same plane as far as the way they thought. I mean, you know, he evidently he was.
That's a good part of it, yeah.
He was perfect in his generation, so.
Well, but that means he was complete in his dinner somehow, yeah. So yeah, that's something to consider against this.
Alan, same with Job. He walked with God. He knew God, and God knew Noah. Now, when the devil tried to get Noah know, away from God. God says you can try, but you can't touch it.
That was Job, yeah. Yeah.
And even though the family was killed and everything was stolen from him, and his friends tried to reject him, he never gave up on God.
Okay, that's the next place I want us to turn is Job chapter 38. Job, remember, all this stuff that Bob said happened to him. His family was killed. He lost everything. And he's sitting there in a pile of ashes, and his 3 friends come, and they sat there with him for 7 days, and nobody said anything. Remember the story? 7 days they sat there on the ground, it says in the 2nd chapter or whatever, and nobody said anything. Then they started to do their dissertations, and somebody said, well, you must have been pretty wicked because God's punishing you for something. Was that true? No, it wasn't. And they kept on and on this, and Job would answer them. And finally, after the discourse, and actually there were 4 of them that made statements through the book here. Then in chapter 38, it says, then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? He said, now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, God said to Job, and you answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? So see, Job learned from God talking out of the whirlwind. Job learned, I didn't know anything. I thought things, but he's asking questions that I have no, and the whole rest of the chapter then, or 2 chapters, God talks to Job and said, you're so smart, tell me all these answers. You're acting like you know everything, and that's what we do. That's what I think we have this all figured out, and I don't know if we do. And we limit God then. We say, well, let's talk about the stories in the creation. And this couldn't have happened that way, and God created everything, and he spoke and it came into existence out of nothing. There was nothing there. And he made it into something. Well, we can't possibly say that we understand that. It can't be. We don't know because we only relate to stuff. We only relate to physical things. And we're just like Job. If God would come and say, all right, you got all the answers. Here, let me ask you a question. We wouldn't have any more answers than Job did. But we can't use that for an excuse to limit God because we haven't figured out, here's what you must have done, God. I don't think we can do that. We were talking this morning. Sue was off today, and she was supposed to do stuff that she didn't do. Anyway, we talked about this. What about some of the things in creation? What was your question about dinosaurs and so on? Well, the Bible doesn't really say anything about dinosaurs, but a lot of people, and even a lot of preachers, think they got the answers for that. And I don't know if they do. I don't think they have. They've got their theories, and they are just like Job darkens counsel by words without knowledge. They don't know, but I'm going to tell you what I think. And we hear stuff about that all the time. And the more PhDs and stuff they have after their name, the more we listen to it. In our lesson Sunday, I did that one that I did here some time ago about believing a lie. Remember the young prophet there in Bethel believed the old prophet just because he was an old guy. I better listen to what he says. Somehow like that. And so the way that we make up our mind about things. But what we got to remember is God is in control. God made everything. God knows everything, and we don't.
Well, when you take the book of Genesis, concentrate on those first 4 words.
Well, that's right.
In the beginning, God.
Yeah.
And just try to get your mind around it.
Yeah.
You can't get your mind around
No.
it. It's impossible.
No, because we think of everything in time and space and dimensions, and
We have to be able
he doesn't need all that.
to be able to see it, hold it.
Yeah,
and feel it.
yeah,
If we can't do that,
yeah.
then something's wrong. You know, and you're a fool in today's world if you accept it.
That's right. That is the next thing.
And I can't believe you're foolish enough to
Uh,
believe,
that-
just blindly believe.
That's right. That's right.
That's what they say, you're just blindly believing, you know, and I guess I am.
But again, they've swallowed a lot of lies. They have. And they're invested in it now. If I recant that, I'll look like an idiot because I always thought this, that kind of thing. So we're up against things like that. But we can't limit how the majesty of God, how powerful He is, and that's what Paul was pointing out in Athens there. That's what he pointed out to the Romans. God is powerful. And if He says He did it, what are we to question? We're just like Job. We don't have the answers. Thoughts? Questions? Corey?
I think a good takeaway from that is when we're talking to people about God, when they're asking questions, if it's not in the Bible, let's not even go there.
Okay, the scripture for that would be like, if any man speaks, let him speak as the oracles of God.
Yeah.
If we can't give him thus saith the Lord for it, then we don't have the answer.
Right.
That's right. That is
There's
good.
no sense in-
A good
we can,
point.
We can theorize about it.
Yeah.
but as soon as we start coming up with 2 different ideas, may as well just
Then,
stop, because you're both probably
They,
wrong.
they can't both be right, but they can both be wrong, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And often they are. And like God said to Job, you don't have the knowledge. You're not qualified to speak on these things, Job. Even though you've been blathering about them, what do you know about it?
Are
So,
you gonna talk about the bug?
well,
Is that the next?
we can talk about the bug.
What?
We can, she wants to talk about the bug. I guess some of you know, my idea has always been, Randy calls it apparent age, but I don't know if it's apparent, that means that somebody's trying to deceive somebody. But in creation, it's always been my idea that God made that stuff, and as it came into existence, when He spoke, the things from its past also came into existence as a component of that thing. Okay, the bug. If we're in a forest, there are bugs that live in dead logs. There are bugs that only colonize dead things. But they were made on that 6th day of creation, just like everything else. Now, on the 6th day of creation, where did those bugs get their dead logs? Did that come into existence as a component of the forest or as a component of that bug? I don't know. But I think that explains a lot of things. Again, the theory is called apparent age, but that implies that God can't do it. Or it implies, I don't know what it implies, but I think God is perfectly capable when He spoke for that, whatever in the past of that thing that He was creating also came into existence. And that would explain a lot of things, like
He made the dead log the same time.
Well,
everything was in balance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You think about it, everything else worked like he wanted it to, and so He provided food for man,
Yeah.
provided food for all the other animals.
And there's,
So you had to provide
and it was all in balance. There was not too many dead logs, and there was not too many bugs, and there was not anything like that. Everything that was created implies that there was something there for it to exist on. And that had to have, in our thinking, had to have taken some time to develop those things. In God's thinking, he spoke, and whatever it took to make that thing and all of its past came into being. I don't know. So
Well, it goes back to the chicken and the egg.
well, kind of, yeah, but
The chicken and the egg thing is, it has to be the chicken.
we
Doesn't make things full grown.
we give God this much. When we think of God creating Adam, we see the dust forming into a man. And how old is he? Well, he's not any age at all. He's nothing. But he looks like he is a full-grown man. So everything in Adam, the length of his bones, whatever it was, came into existence as a component of Adam. You know, how long does it take for your femur bone to grow to the length that it is? All your life, all your childhood.
That's the
But
miracle.
yeah, but he didn't have apparent age. He was aged. It was actually, and God did it. And we can't say, well, God, you can't do that. That can't be done. Well, the whole thing can't be done. Okay? So if we read the Word and believe the Word and understand what God wants us to know here, and that's what like Corey said, that's what our job is, to know what the Word says. And if that fits something that somebody has a question about, let's use it. But if we don't know where the Word, or if we don't have the Word for some question, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer for that. Go ahead.
I always go back to what Simon said, Mike Simons.
Oh,
He said if God wanted us to know, he would put it in the book.
he would.
I
Yeah.
always ask questions, and that's what he always answers.
Well, yeah. Apparently, there's some things that God don't think we need. And we'll speculate about them, and we'll theorize about it, and we'll develop all these ideas. But we'll be, if God could come in the whirlwind and ask us, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you answer me, we got no answers.
So when we hear of hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff like that, all these weather guys have it all figured out because it's cold air and hot air, and so it hits a certain place, and that we can't think that God just.
Yeah, well, that's.
I mean, I don't know.
And can God make it hit a certain place? Or yeah, he can do anything. He can still do anything. But he's done create. After that sixth day, everything was in balance, and the seventh day he rested. But the sixth day, everything's good. It's all good. It's all going to work. Then all nature was in balance, and then he created man, and that threw it out of balance. But that's what we've been dealing with ever since. Dick, you had your hand.
Yeah, it takes more faith more effort, I would say, to disbelieve
Yes.
that there was a one cause, first cause, than it does to take that leap of faith and believe that God was that one cause, first cause.
Well, there are more and more people starting to believe that it's a given that evolution didn't work the way they theorized that it can have. There's too many gaps in that. Too many things had to wait too many years before it evolved into something sustainable.
And the one thing that guys had to quit thinking about, and would blow my mind, where did God come from?
Yeah.
And that goes back to the point, we don't need to know.
No,
He
and-
would have told us. But
well-
if you start thinking about that, it'll blow your mind.
Yeah, well, like Ken said, those first 4 verses in the Bible, in the beginning God, well, we only relate to time. We only relate to, but where did he come from? How did he get there? Well, he always was, and that's the answer to it. If we have to keep ruminating about that and chewing our gum or whatever, that's not going to gain us anything. We won't
I am
ever.
what I am.
Yeah. I am that I am. Good.
Well, when you come down to it, Alan, that's the very first thing that we, as believers, have to believe.
That's right.
I mean, your whole, everything hangs on that.
Yes, it does.
In the beginning, God. Those first four words, I mean, that is, and you just have to accept them.
Yep.
And if you either accept them or you don't accept them. And from then, you build, that's your foundation that you build on the rest of your life.
Well, you'll notice too that by the second verse, we've already been introduced to God, the mind. We've been introduced to Jesus, the Word, and we've been introduced to the Spirit. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, there's the Word. So we have the three in the Godhead in the first two verses of the Bible. And so many people, some denominations will not accept that, will not believe it, will not. Okay.
First few verses of the first chapter of John kind of goes back to in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made.
Yeah.
One of the things I think about, we can't see it, but right now we're all using it, the air. You
Yeah.
can't see it,
Yeah.
but it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't, we wouldn't be. I mean, a lot of things we can't explain.
Yeah. The spiritual things, and remember Jesus told, was it Nicodemus, if you tell you earthly things and you don't believe, how would you believe if I told you spiritual things? So, yeah, we just can't relate to some of that, but we have to trust that God gives us what we need to know. And I know that he does. Okay?
Romans 16:25, and Paul's ending that letter, he says, now to him who is able to establish you according to my gospel and the preaching of Jesus Christ, according to the revelation of the mystery kept secret since the world began. Now, is that mystery there, the mystery of Christ?
Yes.
That's talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And that's the gospel. And again, from 1 Corinthians chapter 15, we're told exactly what the gospel is. It's the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Christ. That's the gospel in a nutshell. The summation of it. So, and then again, from 2 Thessalonians 1 verse 8, where Jesus is going to come and with his mighty angels in flame and fire, taking vengeance on those that don't know God and what? Don't obey the gospel. So if you can, and I pointed this out last Sunday, but if you can find somebody who will listen to that verse and ask them, like I've always done, what is the gospel and how does one obey it? If you can get somebody to think about that, they got to keep going somehow. Well, then the gospel is the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Christ. The summation of the gospel. That's what it is. That's the whole thing. Everything, there's more said about it, but that's what it boils down to. Well, how does one obey the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Christ? We got lots of, not the least of which is Romans 6, verse 3 and following, where it says, as many of us as were baptized into Christ were baptized into his death, one part of the gospel. And it talks about the resurrection and coming out of the grave of baptism and being living again as being a new creature. Resurrection. It's you can expand on it from there, but that's the essential.
So I guess what we're saying in Deuteronomy 29:29 says, the secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong to us and to our children forever. That way we may do all the words of this law.
As Isn't that Moses telling those Jewish people, don't worry about what you don't have. What you got is enough. And if you hang on to that, you're going to be all right. Yeah. So if we hang on to this word that we have, this truth, this, sanctify them by thy word, or by thy truth, thy word is truth, Jesus said in John chapter 17, verse 17. Okay.
Also Revelation 10 verse 4, it says, now when the seven thunders uttered their voices, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying to me, seal up the things which the seven thunders uttered, and do not write them. So
there's some stuff
something that John was not supposed to.
that we don't need to know. Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have enough. If we go ahead, it's like when we were kids and we wanted some more on our plate, and Mom would say or Dad would say, "You eat all that, and then we'll." Yeah, that's kind of what we're getting here. Okay. All right, that's what I had for tonight. I don't know.
That's pretty interesting.
Well, it is. Huh? A lot.
That thing in Acts 17 there, though, that is basically where the world's at with this unknown God thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they are so.
They were there then, and they're there again.
Yeah, I mean, people are so wrapped up in that.
Well, and just like those Athenians, people who have invented their own God. They really have. You can't tell them what God says. No, the God I serve doesn't say that, or isn't. He's not going to send anybody to hell, or. Well,
that's the thing that I have a hard time understanding. And I've said this before. Jesus said, "Thy word is truth." Well, people, if you ask somebody straight out, would you rather believe a lie or the truth? What are they going to tell you?
Yeah, they're going to
say,
give me the truth. Yeah.
Well, then why don't you?
Yeah. Here's what it is. Thy word is truth, and here's what it says. But no, I can't. I don't believe that. It's incredible what you really find out people do believe sometimes.
And that's why we have so many religious groups
Yes, we
in the
do.
world.
It is.
They're not being taught the Bible, they're being taught whatever. Just like, this always has astounded me. What are these people doing putting ashes on their
Well,
forehead?
just before we came, I saw on the news that down in Johnstown, that is, the Catholics started that Ash Wednesday thing where I guess what they do is burn last year's palm leaves from Palm Sunday and make ashes, and then they put them on your forehead next year. Well, the Episcopal Church, the Church of England, has picked that up, and down in Johnstown, they have like a takeout ashes. And this lady who's an Episcopal priest will come out in the parking lot and do that cross on your forehead with those ashes.
And what meaning does that have to
Well,
do?
it's the start of Lent, see.
Well, okay, today starts Lent.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yesterday was Fat Tuesday.
See, some of these things they come up with,
I know.
you wonder where they got
I
them.
know.
It
And-
doesn't say anything in the Bible about Ash Wednesday.
But-
Come on, quick.
No, it's in over there in the second opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Many of those people, if you point out to them some of that stuff, commanding to abstain from meats,
Right.
and that's the doctrine of devils, doctrine of demons.
Forbidding to marry.
Yeah, it's deceiving spirits and the doctrine of demons to command to abstain from meat. But we're starting Lent today,
So they can't eat meat now for what? How many?
40 days or something like that. Yeah.
Well, some people were saying some people, they don't think of Ash, but they think, well, let's do something, not do anything for 40 days. Then you do
Well,
what you do.
yeah, I don't know. But again, if you point out that the Bible actually says, and the truth actually is, that that's the doctrine of demons, then they'll be mad at you. I mean, be careful how you point it out to some of them.
But this thing of idols, it was prevalent even back, with Moses' day,
something,
When you get into this
something better
speaking
somehow.
in tongues and spiritualism and holy rollerism, they're looking for something, and that's what in Acts chapter 17 it was. Paul says, you're inventing things, you're looking for unknown gods.
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
and
it,
we have that today.
it seems to me that those Athenians, they had a god for this and a god for that and a god for everything, god for the ocean and a god for the land and a god of fertility and the crops and a god of the weather and the sun but they said, you know, we got all these gods, but maybe we've missed one. And so let's put up a statue out there and a memorial or an altar for the unknown God, and then we'll have it all covered. Now, I think that's what they did. And Paul, I always thought that he was, when he landed in Athens, and, you know, he's wandering around, look at all these idol worshipers, how am I going to ever reach them? And as he walked along, there was that memorial, there was that idol statue, whatever it was, and said to the unknown God, I think the Spirit tapped Paul on the shoulder and said, that's me. I'm the one that they don't know. And so Paul had his sermon right there. When he got to the Areopagus, he just said, well, I was going through your what are they called? But anyhow, I was going through all those memorials and all that stuff, and I found one to the unknown God. That's the one I want to tell you about. And they had to listen because they thought it was unknown. Turns out it was. So if we could just be 1/10 that aware of how people are perceiving things and how to present them to this stuff. Ken?
Well, I was relating a story Cindy told me today. She had Phyllis in Punxsutawney. And everybody knows that Phyllis doesn't really say what she's thinking. You know, she bites her tongue.
Yeah.
And anyway, she was talking to some relatives, and they had this big gas thing on their forehead, and Phyllis says, that Pope ain't no better than me.
Well, he's probably healthier than Phyllis. Or she's probably healthier than him right now. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
You know, when Paul finished up there, it said there, you know, in verse 32, they mocked him when he talked about the resurrection, so he left. It said, however, some men joined him and believed.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
he didn't get a lot, but
Nope.
he got a couple.
Nope, but it was worth the effort. Yeah.
He at least got one.
Yeah, some, yeah. And he was just laid over there waiting for some of his other companions to meet him, and that's how he happened to be in Athens, but took the opportunity. So. Okay, I appreciate all the discussion.
You know, I must say, like, with the story that Ken told about Phyllis, you know, we all, in a way, need to be like that. We gotta watch how we present it, but this world has softened us.
That's right.
a lot.
That's right.
And, you know, even though those of the Lord's church used to really be known for going out there and speaking the truth, whether, you know, people liked it or not. I mean, some do it the wrong way, but
Yeah.
some did it the right way. And we just gotta remember that this is the truth, and we've gotta tell people the truth.
Well, that's it. We won't get anywhere with anybody by offending them. That's just simple as that. But also, Paul said he's not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. And again, the gospel boils down to those few things. And it's the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believes.
I just wonder if you'd ask somebody, you know, just tell me what the ashes mean. I wonder if they could really tell you.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if they really know what that's all about. Explain to me. Maybe if you say to them, well, I'm missing something. I don't have that ash in my head. Maybe I'm in the wrong.
I put those all in my driveway, huh?
Well, like an idea like with Lent, because isn't Lent when you give up something for 40 days?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that starts today.
okay, that starts
Yeah,
today, okay. So, like in my mind, and because Lent's not scriptural,
Yeah.
so anyone could have an idea on this, but in my mind, if you're giving something up, it should be like a sacrifice to the Lord that you're giving up.
Wow.
But you ask people what they're giving up today, they're giving up, sugar.
Yeah.
They're giving up, social media for 40 days. They're giving
Yeah.
up Facebook for 40
Yeah,
days. you know?
yeah.
I mean, that, I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but again, it's not scriptural anyhow, but,
Well-
I don't think that's what God would even want from you to do.
No, well, that's it. We have instructions about fasting for that matter, but it's a personal thing. We're supposed to not let anybody know that we're even doing it. We never have an injunction to actually command a fast.
Right. And they fasted
We have-
different times through the year.
Yeah, yeah. And there were times in the Old Testament where they decided, well, we're going to fast and this and that. But in the New Testament, it's treated as a personal thing entirely.
Matthew 6:16 through 18.
Yeah, what's say when you fast? What?
Says, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces that they may appear to men to be fasting. Surely I say to you, they have their reward, but you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting.
There you go. So he's not saying not to fast by any means. But when you do it, you don't even want people to know it.
Take the ashes off your head.
It just, say, wait a minute, let me wipe that off for you.
What would happen if you did that?
I saw somebody do that. You have something on your forehead. I don't remember where that was or even who it was, but I saw.
Cindy, your project this week, since you had relatives that had ashes on your forehead, is to find out what they, why, if they know why they did it.
Yeah. Or say,
Her reply to my mom was, well, you're not Catholic.
yeah,
Yeah.
say, hey, our church group wants to know why you do that. We were thinking about that the other night.
Yeah, but the Episcopalians were doing it down
Yeah,
in
well,
Kingston. I mean,
well, that's
they
it.
had preachers out on the street.
Well, that shows, the Episcopalians broke off from the Catholics, the Church of England, and King whatever it was became the head of the church instead of the Pope. So they're just one step from Catholics. They have all the stuff.
Tell them why they broke off,
Yeah, because of Anne Boylan, huh?
because he wanted to have a wife and then.
Right. He wanted to divorce his wife.
He wanted to divorce his wife.
Oh, yeah.
And they wouldn't,
And,
Catholic Church wouldn't approve.
yeah, the
it, so-
Pope wouldn't approve it. He says, okay, I'll just start my own church and I'll be the head.
Yeah, so-
That's the Episcopal Church. So,
Basically what's happened today.
yep. Okay, we don't have the kids up here yet, but
Rang the bell.
They might not have heard that bell, sometimes you don't hear that bell in that room.
I heard it ring.
I can't get it.
okay.
Just call, just text Stan.
You must really be rallying.
He's probably really laying it on thick down there. Well, I appreciate that we can have discussions like this. This is great, and our classes on Sunday go well, all that stuff.
You don't have to go to church anymore, you just drive by,
Yeah, in Pittsburgh, they call
We
that
have a fish sandwich
ash
along the
and
way.
dash.
Ash and dash, okay.
Get your ashes and
I,
dash
I,
out.
I don't know why they don't have like McDonald's drive-through and they can just reach out the window. and do- Yeah.
What do you call it, ash and dash?
Ash and dash, yeah.
That's what they call it on the news. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they called them takeout ashes, so, yeah. But we, what they're trying to do is fit into our culture. If the people want to, something on a drive-through or takeout, well, let's give it to them. They even have funerals that way now, I guess.
Years ago, that did happen, I don't know, if it was maybe in Florida or something like that. Maybe still going on, it was like drive-through service.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, is everybody coming up? Kendall? Is everybody on the way up?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, I'm tired.
Oh, that's all right. we're gonna have to get,
When did the Orthodox Church break off?
that was in 1054, I think, when the schism there, when the Eastern Church and the Western Church, the Roman Church, and the Roman Church said, well, no, we're gonna be the power in the whole thing. So it was a power struggle, but it all started, Corey, I think, like what Paul told those elders from Ephesus, from among your own selves, men will rise up, seeking to draw away disciples after themselves. And he knew that was just around the corner when he told them there, and Melita had those Ephesian elders there. He said, that's what's going to happen. The Spirit says it. It's going to, and from there it just went to those elders, one elder being over a bunch of other elders, and the bishops, and then they decided, well, we got to have one guy over this whole thing, and we'll just pattern it after the Roman government. That's what they did. But I think that's what you'll find is 1054 is when the whole split.
What gets me is all these Catholics are out there in St. Peter's Square
Yeah.
praying for the Pope. Don't they have a church? Why aren't they praying in a church? They're out there in St. Peter's Square.
Yeah.
I mean, they more or less do things for show than they do for religious things.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Kim says, don't they pray for the Pope? So if the Pope's sick, who do they pray to now?
And if you look at, well, we can get into that so deep there. There are things in Thessalonians that line right up. I mean, somebody sets himself up to be God and be like God and be as high as God. Sorry, you're worse than I am. Okay, we got everybody back here now. It's always our custom, I guess we'll say. It's our habit to extend an invitation, and tonight is no exception. If there's anybody that needs anything, if you need the prayers of the church, I don't think there's anybody that needs to be baptized, but if there is anybody, and if you need prayers, if you need encouragement, if you need anything, now's not the only time, but now's a good time to come as we stand and sing the invitation.
Number 762. When can hear my Savior calling, I can hear my Savior calling, I can hear my Savior calling, take thy cross and follow me, where he leads me I will
luck and pray that I present myself in the best way I can.
All right, tomorrow Casey is making a call about a scholarship. So she needs all the prayers that she can get.
It's been pushed back 2 days now, and I've been freaking out every single day. Every day.
Yeah, she's been dressing nice to school every day.
I haven't worn sweatpants a single day this week except for jeans and a sweater. It's
It's
been,
all in God's time.
yeah.
God's timing.
He'll take care of you.
And if you don't get it, he's got something better for you. Just remember that.
Hey, I gotta teach.
Student loans.
Do your best and let God do the rest, that's what Kim said. All right. Let's do it.
Ken, I'm gonna teach next Sunday, no, what do I teach?
Next Monday. Next
Monday,
Monday.
but she gave me all this list of stuff I have to do when I leave here. Somebody better stick around and tell me, I don't know how to lock the door.
We'll help you.
We'll take care of it.
Okay, all right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Anything else? Dick, wanna close this?
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and its many blessings. Thank you for this opportunity to assemble here to study from your word. We pray that we have profited by it, by drawing closer to you from our study this evening. Our Heavenly Father, be with those who are sick among our number and those who we don't know about. Be with those who are sorrow for the loss of loved ones, and the Hartzell family and others. Our Heavenly Father, be with those who are in beds of affliction, those who are confined to their homes, to nursing and assisted living facilities. Be with them. Be with the governments the world over, especially in these controversial times. Our Heavenly Father, be with those who are in the military and those who are serving even in our local area as first responders, police, EMS, firefighters. Be with them as they leave their families and go out on each call and each incident that they may return safely. Our Heavenly Father, be with those who are traveling. Be with Pam and Randy who are traveling to Kentucky. Heavenly Father, that they would have a safe trip. Be with Dave and Karen as they journey to San Antonio, that they would have a safe trip. Be with us now as we travel home, that we will have safe journeys. In Christ's name we do